I find that weird though. It's like this idea that one person shares multiple partners and they receive different things from all these people.
Why can't this be on camera?
These multiple people, what are they getting from this one person?
The little bit they're getting.
That's not fair though.
That's capitalism.
Yes.
One boss, many employees.
Very hypocritical.
But natural.
Yes, natural, sharp.
What if you have like 3-4 children? Isn't that fine? What are your 3-4 children getting from you, but when are you getting from 4 children?
That's a natural order of life. Me having sex without protection is a result. As a result, I have
Protection is unnatural.
Sharp. But what I'm saying is I have these kids.
Sure.
I raise them. When they are of a particular age, then they've hopefully are socialized well enough, or mhlawumbe bangakwazi ukuthi bayithathele inqumo about the kinds of life.
You know, one of the things I've thought about is this idea that it's called marriage.
Yeah.
A marriage is meant to end when one or both of you mature to a certain point. The reason you guys are getting married is because you need each other for something.
Sure.
And we're meant to empower each other to a point where we don't need each other anymore. And once you get to... So let me speak old school. I'm a 30-year-old man. I marry a 20-year-old girl. She's young. She looks to me as a provider. Hey, ubaba. You know, I must help her get through school. I must help her get a job. I must help her become strong. And then after that, she must leave me. Why is she still there? Because once she stays there, but she's got money, Sissy in Kunzezu too. Now I want the family to go to Cape Town. She's like, no, I want to go to Durban. I'm like, Aibo, but I said, she's like, well, I can afford. I say this because I've seen a lot of marriages end because the man married the woman when she was young, student, whatever. He had a car and whatever. As soon as she becomes empowered and strong and moneyed, clash.
Okay, got that. When we started this relationship, was the objective ukuthi?
When we started, it means nothing.
It does. It does, because masizoqala ukwazana, you know, like there's a particular way in which, or a point at which we start.
Okay.
Asazani.
Sure.
But we must lay some kind of foundations, even if implicitly.
Okay.
We imply them. Okay. Mina nawe Penuel singabangani because we like. No, singabangani.
Sizwe, are you proposing to me on camera? What is happening? Sorry.
I like women.
Please carry on.
Anyway.
I can be a woman, Sizwe. Whatever you need.
How?
I'm kidding. I'm sorry. I interrupted you. So sorry.
Okay.
You guys have implicit rules that should be, or they can be implicit rules and a foundation at the beginning.
Yeah. You know, the foundation is implicit. It's not really solid per se.
Mm-hmm.
But as along the journey, then you start to solidify that foundation and you say, okay, don't go beyond this line, you know, because we're trying to build upwards and not laterally that way, you know. That then gives you structure, some sort of structure. But I think relationships or marriages don't have to end, né? Because someone has reached that particular objective or potential that they maybe had set out to reach. I think then you must find a way to set new boundaries or set new goals, not boundaries. Set new goals. Okay,
why don't you just break up?
Break up because
you've reached the goal, you've reached the boundary. The dynamics are no longer the same. So you started somewhere else and I think it disturbed you. You were saying it's very unfair and selfish for one person to have multiple partners and whatever. Now we're speaking about like mshato as a generic. But it's a conversation I love having.
Sure.
Human beings are stupid, in my opinion, generally.
Okay.
They don't know what they're doing. They get told the pastor said, the politician said, the king said.
Yeah.
What would be ideal, of course, if we were dynamic, intelligent human beings, would be at the onset, like the interview, a job interview, why would you like to join this company? Sure. And Nati ask us questions. Why are you guys interviewing? What actually happened?
Yeah.
So there should be a similar needs analysis thing at the beginning of, why do you want to be with me? Oh, because I love you. That's bullshit. Who the fuck cares what that means? What if you don't love me tomorrow? What if you love someone? So let's speak about, I would like to have children. I think you're good looking. I would like to have good looking children and I think you might give them to me. It's because you are within my proximity. I actually wanted to be with Will Smith, but he's so fucking far and he's with Jada. So I'm stuck with you. You look like you're someone that has means. I have needs. You can meet them. Then you can, what do you offer me? Well, I think I'm good looking, street cred.
Sure.
I'm a great cook. I'll give you good looking children as well. And as the relationship or the marriage goes on, there's meant to be constant touch points.
Yeah.
Therapist, family, whoever. Is Umako still cooking? Is Ubaba still providing? And if that's not the case, how do you fill the gaps? And if it gets to a point every time you're doing the touch points where now you realize out of the 10 things I needed at the onset, it's gone down to a point where he's only providing 2.
Yeah.
And it's like, we've tried the therapy, we've spoken to him, we've gone to cut. He's not, so we have to cut it. Because I think like divorce and those things are not meant to be like a shocking. I to young shire.
Sure.
Senkhathela to young shire. Wangshang na 17, yes, I needed imali yakho ngoba phela ngangidinga school fees. Like your children. Uzafuna ungishaya, hey baba, bab Dube. No, nami ngubab Dube, ngingane yakho ngazongidakela. I've matured to that point and that's where you have that conversation.
Sure.
The setting of the new goals, and it's almost trying to make fake and false reasons for why we must stay together. But look at the children we've raised and you're like, no, that shouldn't be enough. End the fucking thing. All I'm saying, look, I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just saying if human beings were smarter, they should be having these type of conversations so that when people split,
sure,
both of them should be like, it's not nice. It's not great. I've known this person for 10 years, but the realities of the dynamics. He wants to sleep with a lot of women. I'm not comfortable with it. We've spoken about it. He still wants to sleep with me and I'm like, what?
Yeah.
But it's about 4. I like takeaways. If anything, I've hired a chef. I'm a CEO now. I'm never at home. I've met another guy who's pretty cool. Like, we don't align. Says grand, and the kids have a nanny. The kids are old. Siraiti.
Sure.
We're hurt. We love each other. Maybe we'll retain the friendship. We don't know. But this is not a thing. See, we're no longer fitting. The company's says we can't hire you. We can't afford you. The company's lost its contracts. We need new skills and you don't have them. Yeah. So I don't know. Are you going to clean the floor? You're not. And it's unfair. Somewhere else. Sorry, that was just me. You still were saying it's unfair. Sorry.
So I'm not saying it's unfair for people ukuthi babe na more than one partner, right? But I think it's unfair that if mina ngingu Sizwe kanje, then I say ngifuna ukuba mhlambe nabafazi about 5. And my reasons are that one person cannot fulfill all of my needs, right?
Sure.
Who says that I'm fulfilling the 5 people's needs?
You're not, probably.
I'm not.
So, one of the arguments I've made for polygamy,
yes,
polygyny. I always say this because polygamy is when a person has one or more married spouse.
Sure.
Polygyny is when a man has more than one wife. Polyandry is when a woman has more than one husband.
Sure.
When I normally argue for polygamy, I explain to people that back in the day, I wasn't allowed without permission and some type of transaction, for lack of a better word.
Sure.
Some type of discussion with her family. I would have to marry her.
Some kind of vetting system.
Vetting is also there, but the bottom line is, I guess I'm starting from the wrong angle. My point is this: when you speak about, I need lots of people to satisfy me.
Sure.
You're never home, wife. So who cooks? Get to aunties also pay. So you've brought a new woman into the house. She's not your wife.
Okay.
You're never around. Who's going to take care of the kids? Oh, get a nanny. You've got another woman, 2 women now in the house. Kono pegayo, kono lona ulala nae. I know, I need someone to help you with my business interests or iplas or whatever. No, get a PA.
Sure.
Now there's a third woman in the house. We're allowed to do that today. Back in the day, you couldn't. And that became one of the arguments for polygamy. This concept of umama uthwele kanzima neenkomo eziwu-50. Sinabafana abawu-2 nomama bancane and nabo bazoxakeka ngoba le nkomo zoyak 100. Iplazi lami likhulu, mhlaba wami mkhulu. To expect this one woman to bear more kids and to look after this entire land with me, it's too much. So mama ngicela uyolanda umuntu ozokusiza. Now mama angeke ahlale. This is where now when people don't understand, some of the women go find you a second wife. Yeah. Not for sex, which is what people now, when they think marriage and they just think sex. No.
But to procreate.
Sex and procreation, not just that. Okay. It could be, Yazi, you're 30, your wife is 27.
Sure.
She goes and she finds an 18-year-old. Hey, kontomazane ngiyitholile ekhuthele. Yazi le ntombazane makhona umshado iyagijima. Hey, baba ngicela siyolandelwa sisi. Siyomadopter.
Yeah.
Like I said, you can't go to her home and be like, hey, you know, my wife is seeing your daughter. Can we hire her to? You can't. It's like, you have to marry her into the, not for sex, not for kids, but to come and help your wife.
Sure.
Now, while she's here, 18, 19, 20, 21, she's of age. And it could happen that one of two things. One, your wife or even the girl is like, I'd like to have children as well. Your wife could be lentomazane isikhulile ifuna ingane. Yeah. Mesuthi hayi busy. Baba kodwa intomazane isikhulile. This is your wife asking you. Because sex wasn't perverted. She's not thinking izoshaya doggy style with ingane encane. No, it was literally she's ripe to have kids and I've groomed her. Umama uzokutshela your wife ngimphekile under my hands. So please give her children. Sex is an act to make the children. It's not what we do today, have fun.
Sure. It's
literally outing yom prekisa lo sislo. Or the other side is she says, sawubona baba bengikhulumile noma uyeza ay nami sengifisa ukuba nabantwana and you might be like, hey, mina ngeke ngikwazi, so hayi ngcono sokutholela indoda. This is not her family, this is you as the man who married her. Wamlobola wamletha la uthi azosiza umama. These are the conversations we can't have because people don't understand them. Anyways, I went on a tangent.
Sure.
My point was to say, I don't know if there's one human being that can be satisfied in the current world with one partner in all their needs. The problem that happens, which is why it's problematic, is this man is saying, I need 5 wives because you can't satisfy all my needs.
Sure.
The wife can turn around and be like, why must you sleep with all of them?
Yeah.
You're saying you need someone to cook, sure. You need, oh, Baba, I'll help you.
Sure.
I'll go and find you these women. When why do you want to sleep with them and have children? And that's where it becomes an issue. And that's where I can almost agree with you and other people to say, you don't have to be a polygamist.
Sure.
If you're saying, I know, let's say even the children, the children argument.
Yeah.
No, okay. Ashu Mahmoud, no, I'll get you surrogates. I'll get you women that have donated eggs. We'll have the kids and we'll hire 2-3 nannies to take care of your 20 children. Why must you marry these women? Why must you sleep with them on a regular basis? Or are you saying my sex is not good enough? Because now the next thing could be, she might say, oh, so you need more sex. I need suities. I'll go find you a sex worker on contract.
I think also another thing Engis Buzayona that I'm also trying to understand is you need your needs fulfilled. How much of your own needs can you fulfill yourself before other people can fulfill those needs?
Is that a laziness thing?
I think I wouldn't call it laziness, but I think I know I struggle with this myself, and I don't have multiple partners, but I struggle with this myself because, and maybe people can think I'm naive.
Okay. How old are you?
Think this way. I'm 28.
Okay. Debatable naivety. You kind of there at the naive. Putumdala. Almost there.
And maybe it's being naive, but there are certain things I want to tick off, certain boxes I must tick off myself. Then my need for you in a relationship becomes building a family.
Who taught you that? Who taught you to try and be independent?
I learned independence from my mother.
Single mom?
No, she's not a single mother.
Okay. By single mom, I mean you lived with your father present?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was raised by both parents in the same home.
You understand why I was asking, right?
Sure.
Because maybe single mom, so she had to do everything herself.
Yeah.
So you maybe could have learned, I also need to do everything myself. But you're saying that wasn't the case?
Yeah.
Sure.
But I had to learn independence because she had to work most of the time.
Your dad didn't have to work?
My dad also had to work.
Okay.
But because my mom was primarily like
the caregiver.
The caregiver.
Yes, that's the legal term.
Yeah. Uyena ophekayo, uyena ongezayo up until a certain age.
Sure.
You know, like, so she taught me independence from an early age.
Indirectly?
Because
she wasn't there.
Because she wasn't there.
Yeah.
Ufunda ukupheka, ufunda ukucleana, ufunda ukayina, ufunde, you know, all these things. So I grow up and I become a person who's like, in a relationship, I need you to buy into the idea that we can become a unit. Two people who are independent, who can find fulfillment in yourself.
Jeez.
Then when we've found fulfillment within ourselves, then we can share the fulfillment.
Isn't that destructive?
I don't think it's destructive, because if you think you can meet people's needs around the clock, that's destructive.
So there's the argument for nature and gender roles, and everyone has a role to play. And in the story about your mom and your dad not being around, in particular your mom,
sure,
it almost sounds like a trauma reaction. I had to learn to fend for myself because of isimo. But isimo was not natural. Your mom didn't go to work by choice.
She didn't go to work by choice. And I wouldn't call it a trauma reaction, because I understood why she went to work.
I think, what am I trying to say?
So I understand this thing, you know.
So women have had to become strong because men were not around. Colonization, whatever the case may be. And it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Women have become CEOs and professionals and their own media companies, and they're billionaires. Beautiful.
Sure.
You can't take, the woman's like, I'm happy. I make my money. And I'm like, it seems like a trauma reaction. You had to be strong because of circumstance. And I'm wondering, look, I'm one of the people that agrees in that people must become independent and stand on your own and then go find someone.
Sure.
But I'm wondering if that's not destructive in nature, because nature almost says you have to have a lack. You can't have your own children on your own.
Sure.
You need to have a woman with a vagina and a womb to carry your child otherwise. But now, this is what I'm saying, it's potentially destructive. You're saying you want a woman who's independent, nya collaborator, nya major, nshayi empire. Someone says, what if this woman's frustrating you? Because you're so independent, go rent, hire, buy an egg.
Yeah.
Get IVF. What do you need the woman for? When you can raise the kids on your own, you can make your own money. Because that's what's happening, I find, with a lot of females.
Yeah.
Independent woman, send her 40, she froze her eggs, she gets sperm donated, and she's like, I don't need a man for anything. And is that not counter? Whereas nature said, or nature wanted us to have a lack so that we can need each other.
Okay, I hear what you're saying, ne? And I think what I mean is that internally, as a person, I think the work of fixing, healing, working on fulfilling yourself doesn't end. And that's what I mean by the fact that you must fulfill yourself. So the internal things. The external ones, we have to collaborate. I can't live in isolation. I need you, you need me. But before we can come together at that point where we need each other, I need to first know how to tell myself the truth. I cannot wait for Penuel to be like, as he sees, actually you're a dickhead. You know?
Yeah, I wanted to say a joke there, but I'll keep it.
So, like,
shit, Sizwe,
there
you're
needs
such
to
a
be
dickhead. That was my chance to tell you.
You know, like, I need to be able to see those things in myself.
That you're a dickhead.
Yeah.
Thank you for saying it on camera.
I need to be able to do that, because if I'm going to wait on other people to do that, it's like when someone keeps saying that yazangiko right and I need to work on things, you know, and then a year goes by, they haven't worked on a thing. Who are they lying to?
Are you not speaking from a place of, I don't know if you'd call it intellectual privilege?
No, I'm speaking from a place of, you know how much you suffer.
Black people.
No one else knows how much you suffer.
Black people.
You know, so I cannot transfer the suffering onto another person, unfortunately.
Other races.
No. I cannot say, yazi, namhlanje, ngithwele kanzima. You can empathize with me to a certain point. But I cannot do this for 2 weeks. At some point, you're going to be like, yazi, actually, angijwayela mfethu.
For 400 years.
Yeah, like, you know? So what I'm saying is,
Black people need to do the work. Because they're still whining.
Well, if we're going to broaden it and say that, I think that black people also need to do that.
Again, I ask, do you not think you're speaking from a point of intellectual privilege? From the perspective of, you have the intelligence to see this, understand it. You sound like a progressive guy. You speak about the concept of working on myself internally, etc.
Yeah.
The average man, woman, do you think they possess what you probably think is common sense and logic to you? The ability to see their problems, their deficiencies, what they need to work on. Do they even know where they're going to find the solutions so that they are one hole to and find another hole to make a... Do you not think you're privileged? And
I don't think I'm privileged. I also believe that ignorance is bliss, in a sense that, you know, I could hold this thing up like this, right? On one side, it's brown. On the other side, it's got all these colors and shapes, like triangles. I must choose to flip it to see the other side. I was having a conversation, no Debza, I think it was last week.
Debza's probably another dick. Is he not?
Look,
dickish.
I think he has a necessary amount of it.
Of dickness.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't like that
with
Debza guy.
myself, it's been able to help, because I've been able to learn some things from that.
Ngiyadlala njalo Debza, shout out to you, dog. I'm kidding.
Shout out.
We'll tell you your dickness next time.
But in my family on both sides, my mother and father's side, we've had funerals in the last 2 weeks, right? So he asked me, like,
my condolences and sympathies to you and your family.
Thank you.
Sure.
And he was like, in sebenze kanjani, you know? And I was
Debs?
like, yeah.
Sure.
No, sebenze kahle. But there's this one thing that I kept asking myself for years, you know? And I guess it clicked when years ago, I asked my dad, like, this whole after tears thing, where's it from? And he was like, no, man, that thing is an Irish tradition. Like, after, I don't know whether Irish or it's from the Welsh people, between the two. Yeah, but
probably
it's like,
the Irish.
It's their thing where they go after burying a person and they drink. You
My
know?
oppose, it's probably the Irish.
Yeah. But then, like, we had my Umamkuluam's funeral. And this thing kept irking me, like, why do we have after tears? You know, like, people will come, ekhaya, kushoniwe, bazo, they come and they give you their condolences and all this stuff.
Bazonikalisa.
Banikhalise. Yeah, you know, baphuza amatiye, badla amakhekhe, badla ipapa nechikeni.
Why am I sensing some anger in your voice?
Yeah, I mean, like, it's a bit frustrating for me, because it's like, then they bury this person And then after that, this money that they could have pledged towards the family and help. Because funerals don't cost 200 rand. They don't cost 1,000. They cost a lot of money. And some of them leave families in debt.
They shouldn't, by the way, but they do.
They do.
For general black people.
You know, and then after the funeral, we can sit and drink and not even spare thought of the fact that these people spent all this money accommodating us to bury their loved one.
This speaks again to the privilege I'm saying.
I don't think it's a privilege. I think
You think it's common sense?
Look, and I know common sense is not common, né? But I think that people get away with a lot of convenience. Because I'm not the one who's burying this person, and because the financial implication is not on me directly, I can just come there and my condolences are enough. And I can consume. After consuming, I can indulge.
But you realize
Instead
some
of
of the
helping.
family members themselves still have budget to indulge.
That's what I'm saying. And
Even though they are meant to be responsible. But still unemali yokushaya black.
Vumelana
Priorities.
now. Vumelana now. And I think these are some of the things that trouble me. Going back then again to the thing, Yoguti, I don't think I'm privileged. I think that I'm choosing to live an uncomfortable life.
From the average black person.
Yeah, it's not comfortable.
Do you understand what I mean by privileged?
Okay, maybe explain the word privilege, because for me, this life is full of pain.
Your life.
Yeah,
Or just life in general.
this life that you describe as a life of privilege,
Okay.
it's painful. Because there's a lot of like having to like get into the fire and like be uncomfortable with really tough things.
There's an amazing quote that says, common sense is not a gift, it's a curse. Because you have to live in a world with people that lack it.
I think so.
When I speak privilege, so generally privilege is having some type of advantage over other people.
Okay.
We normally speak about white privilege because of colonization and apartheid. Abelung had an advantage.
Yeah.
I speak about it generically, which a lot of people are not ready for.
Sure.
Athletic privilege. You happen to be tall. Your parents were both athletes. So when you're grounding, you don't have to do anything to be amazing.
Yeah.
The next little midget is dula, extra. You have a privilege.
Sure.
You could call it earned privilege. From a young age, you've been gymming and working. It could be unearned. Your dad happened to be a Springbok. Your mom happened to play for the netball national team. So you were just born a specimen.
Sure.
You know what I mean? But it's privilege nonetheless. So when I speak about intellectual privilege, I don't even know if intellectual is the word. I'm speaking about the ability to be able to see right and wrong on a very practical level, ask the questions and then look for the solutions and then implement.
Sure.
Which it seems the rest of the country and arguably a lot of black people simply lack. And it's common sense. Asna Mali, why are we having a 200,000 rand funeral? The Muslim family, the Jewish family, they bury next day, same day. The Muslims don't even use a coffin,
Sure.
for example. When you go to their grave sites, they don't have these fancy tombstones, unveiling. And these are in South African terms very affluent groups.
Yeah.
Why are their funerals so cheap? Like there's no practicality in that. But now when you say that to the average black person,
Yeah.
that's where the pain and the frustration come from. Uti, but guys, do you not see? And it's like they don't, which tells me that you might see further than I can. And
Yeah.
for me, that's a privilege. And that's what I was basically asking. Uti, maybe it's because you're privileged. And for me personally, this is why I had to remove myself from the black nation. Because I realized there are so many self-imposed pains and frustrations and suffering. Slavery is a choice, Kanye West, that you can get out of.
Yeah.
Our family is poor, it's broke. And I'm like, okay, how many of us in the family? 500? Okay, we all are able. I'm like, okay, we don't have to keep buying from the Indians
Sure.
or from the whites. We're here. Let's build our own business. Let's buy from ourselves. 1 + 1 = 2. But when you speak to people, the responses, they leave you being like, there's no way. We can't have load shedding and then you vote N6 like it blows my mind. So I think you have some type of privilege, and I only call it a privilege in the sense that it's practical, it saves money,
Sure.
it's directed where it should yield the highest. And I'm hoping that more people are going to start speaking about these things so that we can find each other. As black people, I realize we're different.
Yeah.
And we judge other black people, of course. They judge us as well. But you realize we're not the same. Other people love drinking. They almost think it's a cultural thing. Some people want to slaughter 3 cows. You're like, no, we'd rather invest
Yeah.
and buy 3 cows and then we'll enjoy the milk as dividends. Nina ndifuna ukuyothenga inkomo from another farm. And anyways, that's what I meant by privileged. That your mind has the ability to rationalize intelligently beyond the average.
Sure. And I think also as people, we need to just like plug into like what's happening right now. Like whether it's Sekaya, whether it's at work, like just plug in like on a practical level, because I think spila impilo that are in our minds a lot, you know, that are very hypothetical, and also I think most of them are what we're seeing in the media, you know.
Yeah.
I think that we need to do a lot more of like just tune down.
You don't want water?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
Tune down the external media voices and like just plug into what's happening, Kaya.
You can't do that if your brain doesn't allow, sis. This is the privilege I'm speaking about. To you, it's like a duh. To other people, literally, you'd have to beat them into doing what's best for themselves. You'd have to sanction them. Sure. You'd have to be like, if ungena kule store, like the taxi industry, wangena kule taxi siyakushaya. Ngenkani mele ungene kule. Mawuze ungene kule, the black taxi industry flourishes. Like, hey, the only reason is because they bully you. We're trying to help you. So if you want the Pakistanis Paza shops and the Somalians to, we're going to stand close to them and wasondela sikusha ngemvubu. Hamba othenga kwashabalala kwaKhumalo and uplift the black economy.
So
kusasa kuzothiwa hey phela thina siphethe iphaza. Niphethe iphaza kwamele nishaywe.
So stingani authority ke.
Obani. Nina abantu abamnyama.
Yeah.
You and I can't speak for black people because we're not standard blacks.
Well, I think okay, sure.
But that's what black people need, by the way. That's why even some of them now, they beg for dictators. And they've been begging for a long time. We have the ability to see human beings beyond what they say. When people bazokhothamela inkosi, when people are flocking to Isont on a Sunday, when people worship politicians, when people worship celebrities, they are screaming that we love being told and led. They are screaming. They don't do it for themselves. Then there are people who are like, no, I don't agree with, I know Linkosi. Those are people that own their minds, and they are very few. And normally I find people like that, for me, like you, they are leaders. And I start telling them, get louder. Because I can promise you in the spaces you're in, let's say in your family, if you raise something like this, you'll find 5, 10 other people who are going to be like, after tears, that's leadership. But it's not common. Everyone else rather keeps quiet, drinks, whatever.
Then I guess maybe also it might help that we remove leadership from age.
From age? Keep going.
You know, because this is also another thing in struggling in mostly black families, in that we are cooler, you become a particular age, you start to, so I was articulator better. You can speak maybe ngendlela much more reasonable, and you think ukuthi I can maybe contribute something, you know. But because between yourself and your uncles there's a 20-year age gap, suddenly what you have to say doesn't hold water just because of your age.
Have you heard that line that says there's 2 ways to become the eldest sibling. It's either age or you have the most money.
Make more money.
If you make the most money, wena uphuta omdala. I'm saying this because is it black people? I actually find it's everyone. Lento Ereza is very fair. And it's because for a big chunk of black people, in black families, leadership is only age-based.
Sure.
Wazuhlonishwe mawusuna 50, 60. Okwamanje sewumfana noma ubhoti. Which is not dynamic and sometimes it leads to destruction. How can ikhehla elina 80 elihluphekayo refuse to listen to a 20-year-old boy? He's a multimillionaire. He's built industry. He's got a company. He hires 100 people. Kodwa ethi I know sewumfana omncane lo. Mele silalela abadala.
And you understand that, you know, because we have different sort of areas of talents. Mhlawumbe ngingcono ngapha, wena ngcono ngapha. But surely there has to be a place where we can arrive and say, okay, ayisebenzelanga lento ukuthi mawumdala you can lead.
Your only talent is age.
Yeah, no.
Umdala.
No, it hasn't worked because a lot of our families are severed, you know. From like 3 generations back. You understand? I grew up seeing fights. I grew up seeing uncles, aunts who were furious with my grandmother from like 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And you see some of these things being transferred because esikwaziyo thina to Dube, all your anger, and then on that particular day you explode. So I'm also very frustrated with the fact that we're not communicating in real time our conflicts so that we can work through these conflicts in real time and move past them. Because a lot of the time, and I understand with therapy, there's a need for like professional help. But I think it's underrated how much work we can do amongst ourselves.
Yeah.
And we're not tapping into that. And we're just every time I go out into the world, ngiyalithatha le banje from my wardrobe and I wear it, you know, and I pass it on to my kids. And then my kids now buy a cool and they realize that actually, you know, like I don't like my dad. I really don't like my dad. And they become these people who are angry, misdirected in life. And I also myself was walking down that path because that's what I knew, you know. But things had to change when I realized that I'm actually stunting my own growth. Like most of this anger isn't even mine. Like, why am I bearing this anger? I'd much rather be a lone ranger than to be amongst a family because we can only relate in terms of pain. Okay, right.
Are you hearing yourself right now?
I'm hearing myself.
All I'm hearing from you is you've identified gaps in your family.
Sure.
In particular, your family. Let's not speak about black people in general.
Sure.
You've identified certain shortcomings, etc.
Sure.
And you feel you have potential solutions. And I don't know if you need any validation. And if you do, maybe it's great that you came here because I'm here to tell you that you need to rise. You don't have to convince the entire family. You can start with the ones that are willing to listen, even if it's the younger guys. And they might say you're splitting the family, it's factions, it's fine. That's what leadership is, unfortunately, especially when you not only going against family norms, but generational and black people-wide norms of saying things like, in this family, we don't do after tears. As an example, just as a small example, would you know, if, for example, khona abantu abafuna ukuzozikhalisa, ntshele bonke abangani benu no-F ukuthi mawuzokhala uphatha ama-tea bags, uphatha ama-biscuit. We're not going to take money out of our pockets to buy you tea and biscuits and feed you as examples. But all I'm hearing is I really think, being progressive. And in your progressiveness, it then, now that you've seen it, and this is the curse of vision and enlightenment, just by the mere fact that you are seeing it, it becomes your responsibility to make it happen.
And do something.
Yeah. Because other people don't see what you see.
I agree.
Who is Sizwe Dube? Sorry. For people that are going to be, wow, man, I'm kidding.
Yo. Sizwe Dube. It's a difficult question to answer, because I think in the last 2 years, I think that idea has evolved and changed. Yeah, but I think Sizwe Dube is, I'm very practical. And Sizwe Dube is very artisanal.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that's who I am, even in the way that I love, in the way that I'm a friend, in the way that I want to live my life. I want to live my life as an artisanal person. I like to work with my hands.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's who I am. And I guess people might be wondering, what work do you do? That's also the other thing that people have in their minds when they're like, who are you? But I work in the film and television space, particularly work for Tribal Media House.
Okay.
Have worked for Tribal Media House.
Shout out to Debza, by the way, who we call the dickhead.
Shout out to Debza. Him and Kieran, you know, like they've been a good blessing for me, because this has been, I suppose, the one company that I've been able to work in and be comfortable to be myself and work. I'm not most people say I'm not easy to work with.
Really?
Yeah.
That's odd. I've been working with you for a while now, and I think you're so easy.
Yeah, I guess maybe it's because I don't talk much.
Sure.
I have a I call it like a resting bitch face. Like I have that, but behind that, there's nothing, there's nothing mean about me. I'm just like the kind of person who's like, I like talking to people that are just like, that don't make it a fuss, like talking. So what I mean by that is that because people look at me and perceive me a particular way, then that becomes a reason not to talk. I know how to talk to people, but it's like when I don't feel like talking, I also want to exercise that.
Sure.
So Tribal Media has been that space where I can be me and work, so I've been consistently working with these guys for 5 years.
Shout out to Tibu Khokibine and Kieran Penuel.
Yeah. So like went from school to working with these guys. I think I started working with these guys in my second year of school.
Yeah, that's dope.
Yeah, I've learned everything I know how to do through these guys. Yeah. So
I'm a
outie through and through. I'm very independent as a person that works in this space. So this company has helped in me learning almost all the aspects of the industry. I was able at some point to learn the producing side of things. Also, shout outs to Chibe.
Sure.
She was also a great help in me learning how to do that. The editing side, I've been able to pick some things up. I'm not so keen on it because
it's boring.
I don't think it's boring.
Editing is so boring.
I just think that my talents are elsewhere.
Okay.
Yeah.
But editing is boring.
I don't think so.
So I studied accounting.
Sure.
And part of what I did, third year and honors, is auditing. Auditing is going over financial transactions, going over receipts. It's fucking hell and it's boring. So whenever I look at editors that have to go through footage
Sure.
and decide on a split second way to place this over and over, I'm just like, I would
Definition
die.
of accounting.
Yo, it is. It actually is the definition of accounting and
Sure.
even organizing.
Yeah.
Yo, sorry. But all I wanted to say, editing is boring for me.
Sure.
And shout outs to all editors out there, especially you, Q. Q is fucking dope at editing.
Yeah. No.
Editing is a lot. You?
Shout outs to Q. He's a super talented guy. Very artistic, you know.
Yeah.
So I think myself and guys like him have been able to, because remember that tribal media it's grown a lot in the last 5 years, but
As a production company.
as a production house, right?
Okay.
But even when they started out as a very small company, they were very intentional about teaching other guys about the business, about the space, even while they were small.
Yeah.
You know, so it's become an environment where agunama KPIs, so to speak.
Key performance indicators.
Yeah, especially for guys who aren't, or people rather who might struggle with either discipline or don't have certain sort of like a certain level of maturity to sort of navigate the world of working.
Yeah.
So the guys are patient in that regard, and they are people in that regard, that they will allow you and open you up to the space to learn, and they don't put KPIs on you. They say, okay, we see talent, we'll give you time, but you know, then the human thing also does happen where there's the reprimanding.
Sure. Push Spani, Baba.
Yeah, like
Sizospana,
Baba, don't forget.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been great like that. Yeah, and basically Sizwe is that guy. I'm a friend. Yeah.
Where did you grow up? Where were you born? Where did you study?
I grew up in Meadowlands.
Meadowlands is Soweto.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was born at Helen Joseph, the hospital. Raised.
Helen Joseph where? In the burbs.
It's Helen.
Lego Auckland Park.
Yeah, Helen Joseph's there.
Ooh, that's fancy.
Not really. It's a government hospital.
Government hospital, but from Soweto, Magmeluza le Chris Hani Parakwanath.
It was 94.
Ooh, Sabonga Mandela.
Yeah.
Shout out to Matiwe.
So yeah, I mean, I grew up between Meadowlands Zone 5 and Zone 3. Yeah, I grew up between those two places. Then my parents decided to move to Omonde.
In the south.
In the south.
Of Joburg.
Yeah, and I think I was 10 years old when they made the move. Yeah, and then I only made the move a year later, which was in 2005. Yeah, and then grew up for the rest of my life at Omonde. And then, yeah, I went to a school. Primary school was in Melpark Primary.
Mel Park, I know that. That's in Auckland Park. Or Melville.
Melville, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the school.
Horrible uniform.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was the same back then. It's like an ugly green
Still
and
is.
black.
Still is.
You, Abantu Mel Park, the principal, if you guys want to watch this, please fix your uniform. You're not forced to wear that ugly uniform. Jeez.
I mean, they've gotten better.
The uniform.
Yeah, in the sense of like being presentable, you know, because while I was still there, we wore these golf t-shirts that are green.
Yeah.
And pants that were black, but there was no rule on what kind of pants they had to be. So I remember at some point I was in grade 5 and I wore corduroy pants.
Sure.
You know, so yeah, but like to cut a long story short, at the end of my grade 7 realized that I wanted to leave the co-ed sort of schooling system. Yeah, I didn't feel like I had the experience of being a guy.
This was your decision?
Yeah.
This is not something your parents were telling you?
No.
Okay.
This is not something my parents told me. And then I guess like a good thing happened for me because our principal then announced that Cares and JB Boys were having open days.
Kez is King Edward School
Yes.
in Houghton.
Yes.
And JP Boys, okay.
Yeah. They were both having open days on the same day.
Mm.
I was super excited, went home, told my dad about this, and I was like, yo, we can actually go to both schools on the same day because this is happening on the same day. Yeah, and then we went to the open days and immediately walked in there. There was just, everything was regimented. Everything was like strict, you know, like everything was presented a particular way. I was attracted by the sort of military type of system. Yeah, that I felt that I lacked.
Okay.
From being in a co-ed school. I also felt like guys weren't truly guys in a co-ed environment. So that's how I landed up at JP High School for Boys.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Besides the military part, I know those two schools are very popular for sports, and in particular rugby.
Yeah.
Was there sports any of the reasons you may have joined? Did it have an impact on you while you were at JP Boys?
Sure. I mean, they take their sports seriously, you know. I did rowing as a summer sport, and I did rugby.
Oh, that's niche. Rowing is niche.
Very niche.
Rowing is like, I think it's even worse than golf. Khona abantu abadlala golf.
Yeah.
You meet very few people that even know rowing exists as a sport.
Very niche and very expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah. So did that, super demanding, but also was a tough environment to navigate, you know, because there were very few black people in the sport, you know. All the guys.
There still are very few black people in the sport to this day.
I mean, most guys at our school were either doing cricket or
rugby.
No, cricket or basketball for summer sports.
Jeez.
So yeah, you'd find like maybe 6-7 of us black guys in the entire rowing club, which is made up of like under 14s all the way up to like matrics. And then played rugby. I played C team in under 14.
Sure.
Yeah. Same year as like Malcolm Marx. He was towering, that guy, from when he was 14.
Springbok Malcolm Marx from Kez.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Since he was...
Malcolm Marx was ubaba umdala in high school. I remember watching him at Kez.
Yeah.
Humongous.
Yeah. Like the guy was the biggest guy in the field.
Sure. In the country.
Yeah.
I can say that. He was the biggest boy in the country. Well, I watched him first team years.
Sure.
I don't know how big he was under 14, but I can only imagine.
If I were to take maybe a guess, I think Malcolm was around like 1.7 at age 14.
1.7 meters.
Yeah.
That's
the guy was big.
Sure.
Went from playing C team to playing B team. That was pretty interesting because I was a small guy. I think I learned the idea of like courage.
Yeah.
From under 15 going into under 16, because breaking into like just the B team was hard, you know, because it's competitive. And imagine you're this skinny guy who's like 59 kilograms.
Mfano Samuel Park.
Yeah, and then you have to compete for a lock position.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't easy, you know, especially when you have to play guys like Affies.
Afrikaans Science Word School from Pretoria.
Yeah, and they would say before you play them, the Boeras as hier.
Jeez.
And they are huge.
They're huge.
Yeah, and then first kick goes off and they will make the first carry and they want to make sure that they barge someone over.
Yeah.
So that it sends a message to everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so you learn courage and you learn bravery and you learn how to trust the guy next to you. Yeah, to trust that everything you've done in training, they're going to do, you know, and if they don't do it in the huddle at halftime, you take a shit on each other.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that I liked about boys' schools, was that they were so explicit, you know. Yeah, like you were super explicit and you guys built each other's characters. And that's why I guess some of the bonds we share beyond school are unbreakable.
You know, when I listen to you speak and the way you carry yourself, I would have assumed you went to a co-ed. Because in my experience, I find co-ed guys tend to have a sensitivity towards women.
Yeah.
Because they studied with them at school. Some of these girls were destroying them academically, out debating them.
Sure.
when I got to first year, because I went to a co-ed in Newcastle High, in first year at Rhodes, you meet a lot of these boys' school guys,
Sure.
fascinated by girls in lectures.
Yeah.
But even the way they'd look at some of the girls, especially the rugby jocks, it would be like, but girls are. And I'm like, girls are not like that. So I'm surprised in your balance
Yeah.
of male, female, and you love the boys' school and the militancy. Where do you think the sensitive, understanding, empathetic part for women comes from? For you personally?
That comes from home. My mom.
That's not from school.
No.
Can we agree that some boys' school or some boys' school chains have got some warped view of girls and women?
Oh no, definitely. The just the lack of having women around at school or just in the environment for like 8 hours or so. You know, it warped a lot of guys' minds, you know, and how they treat women.
Sure.
But I think mine comes from the fact that I have almost like 7 aunts like that come after my mom.
Sure.
So yeah, my mom just has mostly female siblings.
That you were close to and exposed to.
Yeah, I was exposed to them because I think most of them are like 10 years older than me. So they were.
That means they're youngish?
Yeah, they're youngish. They're like, they
Older
could be my
sisters.
sister,
Yeah.
you know? So I got to see them be young women
Yeah.
and like date and do all the stuff and just navigate their relationships with men. That then, I guess, gave me some sort of exposure of, female people.
Would you promote single sex school for young boys, maybe young girls? And how would people that didn't have the privilege of your aunts who were young, how would you balance out the gender
Sure.
dynamics if you are pro single sex?
It's a difficult one because angas, you know, like I mustn't sit here and act like boys' schools are great.
Boys' school rule.
You know, like that's all they are, just great.
They've got a great track record. If you look at sports, if you look at the business world, if you look at leadership,
Sure.
the single sex schools statistically outperform the co-ed.
For sure. And because I think part of the reason that is so is because single sex schools almost overcompensate and they lean more towards like aggressive achievement.
Yeah.
So by all means, chase your dreams. Just barge over whatever obstacles
Jeez.
that are
Like
in your
Malcolm
way.
Marx.
You
Just
know?
go and bounce over everything.
Yeah, and I don't think that's particularly healthy. Like in the society we live in, I think people need to be sensitive of other people and just know how to empathize. I've seen what being in a boys' school did to some of my friends.
Yeah.
Some people that I know have had to almost express themselves as who they are after having been in that environment. So I wouldn't advocate for it if your child is not that way inclined. Yeah.
So you chose boys' school for yourself in grade 7.
Yeah.
Some boys wouldn't, and it may not be a great experience.
No.
I think Elon Musk is one of the people that hasn't spoken well, not necessarily of single sex schools, but
Sure.
of his experiences at, I think he was at a co-ed Bryanston High. I stand
Sure.
to be corrected. And then he went to Pretoria Boys,
Yeah.
you know, and he said the culture of everything is rugby or sports. And if you're not that way inclined, you get steamrolled and you looked at as a lesser person.
Yeah.
And I don't know about your friends, but you find a lot of guys who are maybe felt sexually different,
Yeah.
couldn't feel free because you'll be called names or beaten up. There's a lot of aggressive initiation
Sure.
at boys' school where the seniors want to moor the juniors,
Yeah.
and there's hierarchies, and some people absolutely hate their experiences in single sex.
Yeah.
So that becomes one of the downsides, whereas there is those upsides as well.
It's weird, you know. On my first day at JP Boys, we were walking down to the rugby fields. And so this thing that they do is that they don't allow you to wear their uniform in your first week of school. They want you to earn it,
Yeah.
so to speak.
What do you wear?
So all you wear is a white t-shirt and black shorts. That's all you wear. You must learn their school songs. You must learn the school prayers. You must learn the war cries. You must learn their traditions. No hands in pockets. Your blazer must be buttoned. Your tie must be done up to your neck. The top button must be done on your shirt. That kind of thing, you know.
Except if you're Malcolm Marx, because then your neck is too big.
Yeah, it's, you know, your tie has to be somewhat looser. You know? Yeah,
Sorry.
so you learn these things over a week, and then they sort of like have a ceremony where you wear the blazer and
For
the
the
tie
first time.
for the first time, and it's this prestigious achievement, you know. But I think that those things can be a really difficult experience because we were easy to spot in the first week. And I remember on my first day at school, this guy came up to me and he gave me a hug. And I don't know whether it was to sort of see whether I was a soft guy that was leaning towards being homosexual, but he grabbed me and he was hugging me and touching me. And I was like, no, dog, like, I'm not comfortable with this thing.
Yeah.
And he was like, no, dude, I'm hugging you. You have to hug me back, you know? So I think those are some of the things that these schools have to do away with, you know? Because, yeah, they're traumatic.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're traumatic for some boys.
I don't want to speak about your school anymore, sorry. I was actually thinking of life after school, but I want to ask the Penuel show,
Yeah.
as I think you're arguably like head of production. I think you're like head of production.
Okay.
Yes, no, maybe?
I can say yes because I do more than one job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So your involvement in the Penuel show and your experience to date.
Sure. Okay, maybe I can give background again about why I might be or why I am head of production
Yeah.
on the Penuel show. And it's because, like I said, Tribal Media House has been the space where I could learn most things, right?
Yeah.
So I learned everything from rigging to sound from guys that have worked. Shout outs to Jabu Mxhaga.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's the man that I learned how to record sound from. So yeah, it's been great, man. Like the Penuel show, I think this year for me when it started, I was like, you know, I'm really over like doing this work.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when the Penuel show started, like it gave me something to look forward to again, you know. And I was saying to Debs, it's almost become like a sermon of sorts for me, where it's like, I know we're going to hear an interesting conversation, you know. More than anything, sitting behind the camera, yes, we record this thing, and a lot of things I don't catch, you know, because I'm focused on
The
recording
technical
sound,
aspects.
the technical aspects of everything. But then when I sit down at home on Mondays and I watch the episode, I'm always blown away, you know. And shout outs to you because you didn't want to sort of like box everything, you know. And I know sometimes you can sort of wind down and for the sake of the conversation sort of following
to keep the peace.
Yeah, to keep the peace. But I think your way of, and I think it's not just like being a presenter, but it's, I don't know if I should call it like journalism also.
I don't know what it is. I'm not a media person.
But you have a way of asking big questions, but on a level where someone has a light bulb moment. Yeah. And I've seen like people that we consider intellectuals just go like,
Bahlangane namba, bakuyanyiwa la.
you know? and they go, okay, I think I need to, I'm gonna use that, you know? Yeah, so it's been a pleasure, man, and
It's like church.
yeah, it's
Shout
like,
out to Khomotso as well.
shout outs to Khomotso, shout outs to Q, you know, like, yeah, it's really nice when we can come together and like do something. I'm very much the kind of person that supports people's visions,
Yeah.
especially people who have an independent mind to do things. That's why I can easily buy into just giving off my services, you know?
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Your favorite episodes? Before you do, I just want to send a shout out to Bonke Sumbulu as well,
Yes.
who's done amazing work in the back as a guest in the back. But I have to give a shout out, otherwise it's
I think
be
she's
wrong.
part of production.
No, I'm gonna fire her. But we're happy to have her
Well.
visit for now. Dr. Bonke Sumbulu, she must go help patients get better.
Shout out.
Your favorite episodes that you've had that maybe stand out, or moments even. I can tell you now, so I just want to say this on camera.
Sure.
The best parts of the Penuel show since I've joined the
Sure.
team are definitely the behind the scenes before guests get here,
Yeah.
while we're waiting for other guests, while we're eating.
Yeah.
I think some of those conversations, if they were captured, would be the greatest pieces of content. And I guess the challenge is to us on how to capture those moments.
Yeah.
But I think I wanted to ask just your favorite guests, favorite moments, whether on or off camera.
Okay. I think for me, Bongani Chavalala.
Yeah.
Yeah. He blew me away.
You guys both run.
Yeah.
People don't know that you run as well. When I ask who is Sizwe Dube, part of it is you're a runner.
Sure. Yeah. I run. I
Yeah.
also run long distance, like marathon distances,
Yeah.
that sort of thing.
Why did Ubongani's conversation touch you?
It touched me because Bongani Shabalala for me is so intelligent because he's in tune with the Bongani that lives inside of him, you know. I listened to that man and I was like, yeah, Ned, you know, I've watched like movies, man, like Pursuit of Happiness. Yeah, no, like I think I've watched movies, I've read stories,
Yeah.
you know, like I know of Eliud, Kipchoge, but then there's this guy who decided he was gonna take money from his girlfriend, the same money that she had intended to have him use for a bus ticket.
Yeah.
And he bought a bicycle and cycled from Pretoria to Tanin. Yeah, no, I don't think I've ever been in the presence of someone with that much strength before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's overcome a lot.
He's overcome a lot, but he is still able to be compassionate.
Yeah.
You know, people that overcome a lot of things become hardened.
True.
And they become very insensitive to the rest of everyone because they've accumulated the strength. But he seems to be this person who can be very comfortable with the dualities that exist within him and be like, I'm still very compassionate. And the fact that I could relate, that he said, you know, yeah, I could relate with a lot. And then the other one for me was Njubano Babalo that you guys had on DJ.
Describe him.
He's short. Well, it's not very.
We had him
good
with DJ
description.
Sboo.
Yeah, you had him with DJ Sboo. So he lives in Sandringham now. He decided to make a gate between him and his neighbors.
Oh, Sfiso Matondo.
Sfiso Matondo.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
Sfiso
know,
Matondo is in construction. He owns a company called the Jombela Group.
loved that man because he's a community builder.
Yeah.
Like in the true sense. And in Filangati, you know, like a lot of our sort of Amatimer, you know, Eswazio, they can't seem to balance sort of the thing of being a community builder without having the whip,
Yeah.
you know. So I think he's a very compassionate man. that builds communities, and I think we need more of those. So for me, Bongani Chavalala and Sifiso Matondo, have been my favorites.
And those are two of the episodes where the people were relatively unknown.
Yeah.
I think in the South African space at least, but have genuinely authentic stories.
Yeah.
As you're saying, very compassionate guys.
Yeah.
Doing amazing work.
Absolutely amazing.
I'm looking forward to some of the other work we're going to do. I don't even know if I'm meant to be shutting down this episode now.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to the work we're going to be doing.
Sure.
One of the things we've spoken about is I think we as a crew have to have more conversations
amongst ourselves.
because this is not a celebrity platform.
No.
For anyone who maybe might be confused that we need a celeb or a politician. No. This is just conversations, dope conversations with interesting people. And like I said, off camera, some of the conversations we have are so amazing. And it's fundamentally important that we bring some of them here.
Yeah.
People may not know a person who's sitting here. They may not identify with the story, but the stories need to come out. I can imagine the number of people that after watching just this conversation are going to be DMing. I get a lot of DMs.
Sure.
Oh, you went to JP Boys. I was at Mal Park. Yo, shit, that thing he said about...
Yeah.
It's inspiring for me that the work we're doing is actually impacting lives.
Same.
And there are people that are in their own ways changing their mindsets and their behaviors based on the conversations we're having.
Yeah.
It's absolutely crazy, but it's quite inspiring.
And it's done the same for me too.
Yeah.
In that I've been able to come in here every single time, learn a hell of a lot.
Yeah.
You know? I think when I first met you, I was like,
this guy's a dick.
No, kidding. Not that this guy's a dick.
This guy's so good looking. Come on, sis. Let me give you a hug. I
think Bonke would appreciate that, But anyway, when I first met you, I was like, hey, this guy's gonna get us into trouble, But the more I got to be around you and work with you, I'm realizing the importance of conversation, because I think a lot of the time people think conversation is one way, and it's people all have to be, we kind of have to have a consensus on conversation, and it's like it's not that. Sometimes I can be uncomfortable for the first 20 minutes and then ease into it because certain knobs are starting to turn, And I think for myself, that's what it's been like. It's been like, okay, so it's not being abrasive, but it's actually courageous, to be honest, because a lot of people are okay just getting by doing the same things and talking about doing differently. Yeah. And I think that's the thing for me that just being able to work together has taught me. It's like we're not just going to speak about things, but we must do things differently. Yeah.
Sizwe, thank you very much for joining me today. And
shout outs.
It's obviously going to keep happening, but I look forward to our next conversation.
Shout out. Thank you too.
Cheers.
Hola. Thanks, guys.
I'll pay with you.